Shalom, family. Shalom. It's your brother Ash. I just came off of Sign Letters channel. You know, on a daily basis, I like to crash as many Christian panels as I can. Sign Letters on his live stream, and he got a bunch of Christian pastors on there. So I thought, what an opportunity. Stacy Mobley's up there, Reggie's up there. They got a doctor with him, and then Patrick T's up there. You know, possibly the Christians that Stacy Mobley's gonna need to rally to his side in order to debate me with regards to racist tenets in the Torah. Nonetheless, they're on there and they're going into the narrative of the book of Acts where they go and they talk to the priest of Jupiter. And the doctor on there, he asserts that because these people, these Gentiles, quote unquote, are dealing in religions outside of Judaism, that they must be actual Gentiles, completely ignoring what we know about Hellenism and how that was put on Jews. So I go up in there and I take my chance and I ask him about it, and he said that the way he knows that the text is talking about Gentiles, never mind the fact that he said, you know, they're Gentiles because they're not practicing the Jews' religion, but he said the way you know they're talking about Gentiles is because Paul has a way of distinguishing between the two when he talks to them. So I asked him, I said, can you demonstrate that so we can see your scientific method at work? He doesn't do that. He just goes into talking around the issue. So I pulled two sources, Jews in the Mediterranean diaspora and Hellenistic civilization of the Jews, of which I've been showing y'all from time to time here and there. But we're going to go more into these sources because he couldn't deal with them. He could just talk around them. And I got the footage for you right here. Check this out.
The people that Paul is interacting with in the text. And so the man is healed, and the Bible says that the priests of Jupiter and Mercury come out, and they're going to make sacrifice to Paul and Barnabas. All right. Now, the people who are making sacrifice are not Jews. All right. The priest of Zeus, who is the god of thunder and order and lightning. They bring bulls and reefs. You're good right there. You were good right there.
Oh, okay.
Go back to that. They come out to make sacrifice, not to Yahweh. And these are not the Jews. These are the people of that city, the men of Lycaonia. We are bringing you. Well, you had 13 in there too, but we go with that. They come out. Let's take it. The text says they come out to worship Zeus and Jupiter. They called Barnabas Zeus, the chief god. They called Paul Mercury, or Hermes in that language, from which we get the word hermeneutics, because he's the chief speaker. Now in verse 15, you can go back to that. Paul asked them, well, good. The apostle Barnabas and Paul heard this. They tore their clothes and rushed out into the crowd. Now, this is not a Jewish crowd. Now, Paul does not just hold Jews accountable to the gospel. This is not a Jewish crowd. These are people worshiping Zeus, not Yahweh. They are recognizing Hermes. And he says, why are you doing these things? They tore their clothes off. We too are only human like you, and we are bringing you good news. One translation says, we preach to you, telling you to turn from these worthless things to the living God. Now, they had been worshiping false gods. He says, turn to living gods. And he preached to them to turn to living God, not Jews, but people other than Jews. This God I'm talking about, Paul says, as I referenced when we first began tonight, is the God of heaven and earth and sea and everything in them. All right. Now, in the past, he let all nations go their own way. Now, what Paul wants them to understand is there was a time where God is not holding you all accountable for Zeus and Hermes in the past. But Paul is preaching to them now, as these Gentiles, that now he's not allowing every nation to walk in their own way. These who are not Jews must also recognize Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
Sonetta, you said earlier that we got to watch who's on the show and who's watching the show. Gorilla, Tazaria, now Asha's shown up. But remember, the Christian and Apologetic Dream Team, we 2-0. They the ones have to watch out for us. They the
Oh,
ones
oh
running.
yeah, Os is out there. Os, man.
Who's out there?
Shout out to Os, but I'm not. Shalom to you, brother Os. I'm not snitching on you, brother, but we got to keep it real. Os hit me up in the email and told me he just beat the brakes off of our brother Stacy Mobley. Off of our brother Stacy Mobley. Stacy, have you had a discussion with brother Os?
I'll let my brothers speak for me.
And he want to smoke, and he want to do it right here on the toughest environment, brother.
I'll let my brothers speak for me. Ask them what happened.
What happened, Reggie?
Josh claims that he want two of us when he couldn't handle one.
Said, if not three.
Oh,
he couldn't even handle Stacy.
He couldn't handle one.
I've known Stacy for a minute. Stacy is pretty good when it comes to this Bible, though. I ain't gonna front. He know his stuff.
Hey, Sarnetta, I want you to ask your man, Tazariak, why he refuses to debate me ever again.
All right. All right. Let me go on to Ash. Ash is the brother that contacted me to let me know he put the beat down on my brother Stacy Mobley, and that he would like to take on two, if not three, at one time. That would make it even for him. So let's bring on our brother, brother Ash. What's up, brother? You on the call?
Well, God, how you living?
What up?
Nothing much. I heard something that troubled me in my heart, and so I thought I'd get on here and ask why the brother said that the priests of Zeus could not have been Jews. Would any of you care to elaborate, particularly the doctor? I definitely want to hear the doctor's knowledge on that.
Yeah, you're saying why he could not be a Jew?
Right.
Yeah, well, Paul is dealing when what you find out from the structure of the book of Acts, when Paul is dealing with Gentile audiences, he addresses them differently than he does Jewish audiences. That's the way the book of Acts is written. Whenever Paul is dealing with Jews, he references Hebrew passages. Whenever he's dealing with people outside of the covenant, he references heaven and earth and the gods of those outside of the Jewish faith. That's just the structure of the book of Acts. So you'll notice in Acts chapter 14, as well as Acts 17, in those heavily Gentile passages, that there's no reference to the prophets or the Old Testament, only reference to Gentile prophets, like I mentioned Epimenides a few minutes ago. These are, yes.
So that we can view your scientific method in action, can you go to that passage where you guys said they were, going and talking to the priests of Zeus, and these couldn't have been Jews? Can you demonstrate those clues?
Yeah, we did go to Acts chapter 14, and we showed what he was saying. When Paul is talking to Gentile audiences, he does not reference Hebrew passages. What he does is reference the God who is creator. That's his strategy for bringing people outside of covenant into an understanding of the God who is maker of heaven and earth being also the God of covenant. But he starts out of that because they cannot identify with the God of covenant because they don't have a history with him as the God of covenant.
So it sounds like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like what you're trying to say is that if they were Jews, he would talk to them about things that Jews would know or be able to find within the Torah, right?
That is correct.
Do you think that's a little bit of a reach, considering
No.
that hundreds of years worth of Jews being disconnected from Torah, Tanakh, or even any of the oral traditions?
No, that's not a reach, because I don't believe that God was limiting himself to the Jews. It's only a reach if I believe he was limiting myself to the Jews. That's an a priori conclusion that a person has come to, and then it can only see Jews. But if one doesn't begin with that in the first place, then he can see that when you're dealing with Zeus or Jupiter, you're dealing with Mercury or Hermes, you're talking about people who recognize those gods. And you have to realize those people believe that the Jews were atheists because they only worship one God. And they didn't consider them a part of their culture when they limited the number of gods. Now, if he's a Jew in that text, he's a Jew that believes in multiple gods.
Right, right. But isn't that a thing at this time, though?
Say it again.
Isn't that a thing at this time? Jews that believe in other gods?
Not in the book of Acts.
Not in the book of Acts. So you're saying that the events of Acts exist only in a vacuum that pertains to Acts?
I'm saying the book of Acts persists in around Peter and Paul, and Peter's work with the Jews and Paul's work in Galatia, Macedonia, Achaia, and Asia. It's limited to those areas and those people and their gods. It does not include India or China or other places. If you consider that a vacuum, then that's the vacuum.
Okay, so I'm going to make a point because I don't want to continue to put you in a box, but I kind of did. And
No, I'm not in a box. I'm wide open.
Well, if I could allow me to demonstrate, brother, because you
Yeah.
said that, Jews were known and they were kind of, how can I say this? They kind of were outstanding when it comes to the other nations, because in those cultic practices, usually you're dealing with multiple gods, pantheons, and so on and so forth. But I believe the mistake that you're making historically is that you're looking right past the Jews that were amalgamated into these different cultures. If I cite John M.G. Barclay's Jews in the Mediterranean Diaspora, and this is a work put together by a Christian theologian as well. It says on page 321, sorry, and a lot of light where I'm at right now. It says, in participation in non-Jewish cult, right? It says, in a number of cases, we may suspect Jews of participation in Greco-Roman religion merely from the public roles they played, right? And what this entire chapter touches on is that in many cases of high assimilation among Jews, it may be lost in our sight simply because such individuals successfully merged with the non-Jewish population and became unrecognizable as Jews. Nonetheless, there are some examples which do come to our attention and which may group into a number of forms. So, I touch on that very briefly to segue over to Hellenistic civilization and the Jews. Another
Yeah,
scholarly
I'm
work.
familiar with your argument there, the diaspora and the
Okay.
Jews. These
But for the
Jews.
audience's sake that's not familiar, I'll finish the point and I'll hear you out as a doctor. I'm touching on
Try to make it
Hellenistic
quick, brother,
civilization.
because we're getting ready to get out of here. They got to get ready to get out. I want to get Apostle in here to get his question.
For sure. It says sometimes, and this is Hellenistic civilization in the Jews, page 345, sometimes the will to succeed induces in the Jew a dissension to imitate local manners and customs and to make himself like the host people in every respect. This is the way of assimilation, which leads the Jew to repudiate his ancestral customs and sometimes even makes him an unconcealed enemy of the Jewish people. So couldn't this cause you to be looking at say a priest of Zeus who could actually be a Jew?
No. I'm familiar with the argument that you are laying out, and let me just say from the standpoint of what Jews did. Jews very much assimilated into Greek culture and Roman culture and even Babylonian culture. That's why you had Jews that created the Talmud, and they existed wherever they could, and they assimilated where it was necessary, even to the extent that the Maccabean revolt targeted Jews that were losing their identities because of trying to assimilate into culture. And what you get into in Rome is Jews loving to go to the gyms and be naked with the rest of the culture. All of that is widely known. But when it comes to the book of Acts, the book of Acts makes a distinction between what Paul's ministry is to people who are based in the Gentile culture and of that ethnicity, distinct and different from what the Jews were experiencing. And only if I began with a priori conception of who the all is and who the Gentiles are, do I conclude that every time I'm reading about Gentiles, I'm talking about assimilating Jews. That's a forced understanding, and it has nothing to do with reality in the book of Acts.
All right. Thank you. Let me move on. Let me bring to y'all a man